What's up everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today's the day we're going to have to go ahead and grapple with this reality. As I'm recording this video, it's December 31st, 2022. Happy New Year in advance, and I think this article speaks for itself. The October article told us that by the end of this year, Jamie Walker and Stefan Hill, basically co-founders of Rocksteady Studios, were going to be leaving. The announcement was made. The head and the president of the company for Warner Brothers Games basically made the announcement. This is somebody who basically joined the company in like 2013 and took over the games, the division in 2015, basically having not as much, time in the pipeline. Maybe they've done other business stuff. I don't know what they've done, but I think it's one of those things where you're going to continue to see how creatives have to face a lot of different challenges, in my opinion. And I think that this move from Stefan Hill and Jamie Walker is some sort of a challenge in a sense, because it's not normal for studio leaders of their caliber to leave their studios, because I don't think they've spent enough time there, especially when the work that they've done has been as successful as it is, or has been as successful as it's been in the last few years. This is a big deal. And I say so because if we actually talk about other creatives that you can put in the same breath as these two, you see where the discrepancy is. So let's go ahead and talk about their achievements a little bit, because this is going to provide a little bit of context. Some of you already know this, and so it's not going to be a small thing to, just throw out there that you probably don't know, whatever it is. But Stefan Hill and Rocksteady were able to bring a new definition to what superhero games should be. Rocksteady came out with the Arkham games in a time where it was kind of difficult to find a good Batman game, and they did a very good job in bringing their ideas to life. The good thing, though, is other games have tried their best to actually stay close to this formula and have enjoyed success. Example being Marvel Spider-Man. Brian Intihar, the creative director, mentioned in an article that the biggest, inspiration for their game was the Arkham games. This is good news. And if you notice that other superhero games that have not stuck as close to the formula as possible have kind of had a hard time in appealing to a broader audience in a sense. Examples of those would be Gotham Knights and the Guardians of the Galaxy game. You can argue that both games were good games depending on which one you like. I prefer Gotham Knights to Guardians of the Galaxy just because of the action is just kind of different. But I do like Guardians of the Galaxy because of its pacing. It's actually a better paced game than Gotham Knights. But, again, preferences and all of that craziness, right? But when you think about it, you really go ahead and see that those two games didn't stick as close to the formula as possible. They tried something new, and it didn't necessarily bode well for them. Guardians of the Galaxy went on sale as fast as Gotham Knights did. I remember clearly that time I took a job working at GameStop just to be, for curiosity's sake. And I got to see that game move so fast on sale before you know what was going on. It went all the way down to like $3 the other day. So there is something to be said about the niche level of these superhero games. Now, to talk about the developers themselves, the creatives, and also go ahead and mention why them leaving seems to me to be quite problematic, or more problematic than some people are playing to be, is if you mention other names. Example, Miyazaki, who's been at From Software for a very long time, or you mention names like Cory Barlog, who's been at Sony Santa Monica for a good amount of time as well. You'll notice that these seasoned veterans are usually staying in the place that they've established something, compared to Jamie Walker and Stefan Hill. They don't seem to have been in this pipeline as long as many others have. So I think this departure is one that probably did not come from an easy place for them. It wasn't like, hey man, we've achieved the greatest of the greatest. I still think that they were in a position where they were yet to paint their finest work. And somewhere, somehow, they're leaving the studio. You also maybe want to go into the Metal Gear developer, Kojima, who had been at Konami for so many years before eventually leaving right before Metal Gear Solid 5 was released. Now, those circumstances are different, but are they really that different? I mean, think about it. Kojima left right before MGSV came out, and Jamie Walker and Stephen Hill are leaving right before Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League comes out. Now, everything sounds super amicable. Everything sounds wonderfully presented in a press release. But what could be the story that's going on? Keep in mind that I want to also make sure that I'm actually tweaking my position in this conversation. At first, I was thinking that there might be some kind of an effect to, of this to the Suicide Squad game, but there might not necessarily be. The Suicide Squad game is already made. It's already done. It's going to be its own thing. But what happens after this game is released? What are we going to be seeing henceforth from this particular studio? Are we going to be seeing the same quality of video games that made them what they are or gave them the notoriety? Or are we going to be seeing a whole different set of games? Because the person in charge of all of the game studios, David Haddad, has mentioned that, he is interested in moving a lot of their games to live service formats. This is a very huge challenge, and he's trying to replicate what Ubisoft has been able to replicate. But here's the thing, Ubisoft is also evolving and has taken a lot of their big IPs and removed it from under the control of one person and given it to multiple people. So you have somebody in charge of Tom Clancy stuff, someone in charge of Far Cry stuff, someone in charge of the Assassin's Creed stuff across Ubisoft. And so not one person is making a lot of the decisions. But in the case of Warner, you got one person making the decisions. You have a lot of new people coming in, like James Gunn, trying to change up everything. I think this is going to be very interesting overall, because it seems like they no longer want to give the gaming division any kind of separate autonomy. They want to kind of gel everything together. And I don't know if that could have been some kind of a, factor that would have caused for these two to leave the studio at this time. Now, whatever it is they go on to do, I know it's going to be good. They have a lot of experience, a lot of expertise. I mean, their knowledge base is definitely something to die for. In fact, if a studio developing a Marvel game can even tap them, it's going to be over. DC is going to be in the rut for a good period of time. And for those of you who keep saying, oh, everything is going to be fine, I hope you like fighting games. Thankfully, Ed Boon is still running the show at NetherRealms, because those ones are going to still put out a very good flashy fighting game. They did a good job with Injustice 2, even Mortal Kombat 11. As much as it's controversial, I still enjoyed that game, played some stupid amount of hours of that one too. And so they're going to be good. They're going to be fine. Their formula is not necessarily too complex, but you're probably going to be in a place where we've been in the past few years, which is a dry spell. Because think about it, Rocksteady is going to be delivering this game. It's a very different format. Then they're going to move on to their next project. We don't know what that is. And I don't know if they've been making another game on the side. Because for those of you who know, Stephen Hill had already said at one time that they're a one-game studio. So we don't know what's going to happen. We know Warner Brothers Montreal might be working on another project at this time. So I guess that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Then you look at, say, maybe even, Monolith doing the Princess Diana game. That's going to also be some really interesting outlook as well, to see how all this comes together. But I wanted to go ahead and present this again, just to put it out there as a reminder that this is the time for us to grapple with this fact and look very closely and carefully to what direction DC games are going to be going from now henceforth. Thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.